So this is typically a Facebook page. Everybody who is a part of Facebook, they would be knowing this is a Facebook page. And if a human tries to log into this, they will go and write some email ID. Right? And also we need to enter some password and then we need to click on the login button. So this is a very simple use case we have, but actually when you try to implement login test cases, you will know that there are a lot of possibilities which you can add in the login functionality itself, like entering the right username, wrong password, or maybe entering the right username and wrong password. You have both the values as incorrect, or maybe you are giving some a value which is pretty random in nature. You are giving blanks, you are giving some uh, injected value like 1 equal to 1 and all those things. When you try to test the login functionality, you will face it. When you try to automate this, you see on this page, there are three fields. One is your username, password, and the login button. When you try to automate it, you need to find this element as a locator. So how you can find the locator? You will find the actual type, like for this email address, we have some ID called email. For password, we have ID called password, and all these things you can find it in the Selenium. So I have written a sample code. If I go to my Eclipse, so very first thing you would need in your machine is having the Java. So if you can go to your terminal and check for the Java, if it is there, you should always have a Java. If you don't have, you can download it from the internet. If you have Java, that is all you need for automating any kind of Selenium test case. If you have Java, you can write a code like this. Once you have the Java, the next thing what you will need for you to write the test case is Selenium Java client library. So you can get it from the Maven as such. So there's a repository called Maven repository. There we have all the Selenium Java dependency. So if you go to the stable version, we have something called 3.141.59. From here, we can download the jar files. And if you want, you can add the Maven dependency. So Maven is nothing but the build tool which provides us the dependency management and also some other advanced lifecycle. So when you will learn Maven, you will actually know how it works. But for now, this webinar purpose, what we need and jar files for the Selenium Java library. So we can copy these lines and we can put it into our pom.xml. So the moment we add the pom.xml, we can get all the Selenium related dependency in our Java project. So it becomes the Maven dependency. And if you see here, all the jar files which are required for Selenium will come over here, right? So first thing which is required is your Java. And second thing, you need to add the Maven dependency in your pom.xml. Along with that, I'm also using testng. So I have added the dependency for testng. So this is how my pom.xml will look like. The moment you save your pom.xml, it will download all the Maven dependency which are required for your project to run. Now, coming to the login test, so I've created a sample login test in which I'm having a testng. So testng is nothing but a framework. A normal typical Java program will have a public static void main. But if you use testng with the use of annotation, you can configure your test cases with @test annotation. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm creating a WebDriver driver instance and I'm assigning the value for Chrome driver. And if you want to work with Firefox or maybe iDriver or anything, here you should give WebDriver driver equal to iDriver. Once you open this, you can use driver.get method, which will open your facebook.com. And there you can just launch your website. You can maximize the window and you can add some implicit weight. Okay. And now what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to compare that the title of my website is Facebook login or sign up. If you see this facebook.com, the title of the page is this. So I'm just validating that the title of my page is correct. For that, we use assertion. So we are using assert equal, and we are comparing that actual title of my website is matching with the one which is coming on the browser. If it is coming yes, then it will say pass. Otherwise, it will say fail. And then we need to find the locators. As I said, right, we need to find the ID of the element. So there are different ways we can find the element. Like we can find with the ID, we can find with the class name, we can find with XPath and so on and so forth. So when you will learn WebDriver in deep, you will know all the techniques which are required to locate your element. So here what I'm using by.id and I'm having three elements. One is for your username, password and button. If you see my facebook.com, there are three fields. One is your username, password, and login. For each of these three fields, I'm having a locator namely uname, password, and button. And then what I'm doing in this uname, I'm just putting some value like test123 and password also 1234, and I'm just trying to click on the login button. So this is a very simple demo. So what you need is you need to have the Maven dependency added, and you should have Java on your machine. Then you can create a class like this, and when you run this as a test, right, you can run this test as a test-ng test. The moment you run this test, it will open your Chrome browser, it will maximize it, and it will try to put some dummy value. If you're working on your real-time project, you can enter the right credential, and you can verify that after you put the right credential, login is working. But for this webinar, I'm just putting a random value. If you see now, it has logged in with some random value. That's why it is giving me the failure. But for your test case, you can give the right value and it will go to the next page. And if you see my results, this is how a typical test ng will look like. As of now, I'm not putting any validation for the successful login, but you can also put it. So since the test case is passed, it is giving me this. And also you can see the results over here in the test ng tab, right? So this is how it actually looks like if you see the test-ng test case. So test-ng is again a framework which is very, very useful nowadays for all the testers. And you can learn test-ng with the help of right tools and techniques. So @test will give you this. And now the same test case, we can run it from the command prompt. So how we can do that? I will go to my project folder, which is here. In my repository, I have a demo project created. So from here, I can open my command prompt like this, open terminal. And also I can give commands like mvn test. So mvn test is a DevOps concept. Maven is a DevOps concept. As I said, any kind of a project you want to build, you can use a Maven tool. But here for our purpose, we are just running our test case. So we'll say that mvn test, right? So the moment I hit this command, it will do the same thing. You don't need to open Eclipse or anything. With the help of only terminal, you can launch your test case. The moment you hit this command, it will launch your browser. It will do the same thing, which we did it from the Eclipse, right? So all the DevOps teams and all the projects which are into DevOps, either they will use Maven or they will use the Gradle. So Gradle is again a tool which is advanced version of Maven. So either you can use Maven or Gradle. Now you see this project is running fine from the command prompt also. The next thing which I wanted to highlight here is this project is entirely into GitHub. So all the people who are writing your code day to day, they have to push their changes into GitHub. So that's how we'll achieve the DevOps concepts. If you see here, this login test is part of my demo project, and the same project is also there on my GitHub repository. So those of you who are having the GitHub repository, you can create your account in GitHub repository and you can create a project like this. For me, it's already created. If you see over here, this is my demo project. And in that, I have a test cases package. And if you see there, I have the same test, login test.java. As of now, if you see, this is the same code which I have written in my local machine. Once you are done with all your changes, you need to push your changes to the GitHub. So other person who are working on the same project in your company, they will also see your changes and they can pull it on their machine. So what we can do, this is a GitHub repository which is already connected with my machine. And in DevOps, when you use your project as a DevOps project, you should have some central repository like GitHub or SVN or anything which you want. For this webinar, I'm using GitHub, and even you can use that, right? So let's make this hello world 2 as hello world and commit the changes, and we'll refresh this page and see whether my changes are coming to Git or not. Okay. So I'm going back to my Eclipse and I'm changing this value from hello world 2 to hello world maybe 3. Okay. And I'm just saving this change. The moment I save it, it goes to my staging, and from my unstaged changes, I need to push this Java file into staged changes. Okay. So I can just compare the version which is there on my local. If you see on my Git, it is hello world 2, but on my local, it is hello world 3. So I just can replace this hello world 3 to my Git as well, and I will save the changes. So if you see now, both the places we have hello world 3. So let me save these changes and it will be part of my staged changes, right? And from here, I can commit my changes, like I can say that hello world changes, and I can just say that commit and push. Okay. The moment I do commit and push, it will ask me to enter the credential for my Git repo. Okay. I just can say okay. And if you see, there will be a message coming in, which will say that your changes are successfully gone to the Git repository. So if you go back to your Git repository now, and if you see over here, if I refresh this page, now the value is changed from hello world 2 to hello world 3. So daily, whatever changes you are making, you make sure that you are putting these changes into your GitHub repository so that everybody will be in the sync and they can also pull their changes or your changes. Okay. After you commit your changes to Git repository, the next thing what we need to do, we need to run this Git repository from the Jenkins. So what is Jenkins? So Jenkins is nothing but a central tool which is responsible to trigger your job. Maybe if you are a QA tester and your team wants to run your test cases every night, or maybe after some changes are done by developer, you want to run your test cases, or maybe when they push the changes to development branch, and that time you want to run your job. So during that time, Jenkins become very, very important. So you have your job for your sanity, you will have your job for regression cases, maybe you will have your unit testing branch and everything, right? So for this webinar, I've already created a demo job, and we'll see that how we can trigger the job. So this is my Jenkins page. This is how it looks like, and which is residing on my local host, and it can be on any kind of host on server. When I sign in, just a minute. So now into my Jenkins console, this is how it looks like. And for the same project which I have in my Git, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run that from the Jenkins, right? So understand Jenkins is a tool to create the pipeline for DevOps, and each pipeline will have multiple stages. And in this pipeline, what we are going to do, we'll be downloading the code from GitHub, and then we'll be running it from the Jenkins. So you should open your job from here, and you should click on the build now button. Okay, the moment you click on the build now button, it will launch your browser. It will first download your repository from the Git, and it will do the same testing what I have done from the Eclipse. Now you see, if I go to my console and see the output, you will understand that it has first gone to my repository, which is there on the GitHub, and then it did the checkout of the code, and then it actually ran the same men test command on Git, and then it ran all my test cases. And here I'm seeing hello world 3 because I have changed the value from 2 to 3, right? So actually whatever changes are there on the GitHub, it will take the latest pull first, and then it will run your test cases, right? If you are 3 to 4 people working on the same project, you all can push your changes to the GitHub, and then later on Jenkins will trigger the job and it will run your test cases on the latest code. You can also configure this job to run on a different time zone, or maybe on a different interval. You can go to configure section, and you can do the build trigger. From here, you can say that if you want to run periodically, if you want to run after some other job is finished, or maybe if any changes are done to the GitHub, all these things are possible. So DevOps is nothing but having the right set of things in place. Once your development team has done their changes, our role as a QA would be to triggering our testing jobs, so that we can make sure that all the changes which are made by the developer, they are not impacting the current and existing code. If the job is passing for the QA, then only will allow them to push the code to the production environment. And for that, Jenkins will become very, very important, right? How to do that, that we'll learn deeply. But for demo purpose, I have already created this demo job, and you can see it is doing the same thing which I was able to do from the Eclipse. Okay. So with that, I'm done with the demo. I have few more slides which are there for the career path. So let me go through that, and we'll have a Q&A after that. So current trends in the testing world is like a codeless test automation. Many companies are going for having a codeless tools, like Tosca is there, or maybe RPA tools are there. All those are currently trending in the market. We have also mobile app automation. We have AI based tools. We also have robotic process automation. All those tools are there, which are currently trending in the market. Okay. And as I said, blend of agile and DevOps, which we already discussed. This is again a trending thing. If you know DevOps and agile concepts, it becomes very, very important for your profile. And again, we also do some kind of IoT testing, which is nothing but Internet of Things. This is again a separate stream, which is nowadays trending, right? So this all are the currently trending tools and techniques. And if you want to pursue in the DevOps world, this all are the things which you should know. You should know core Java. You should also know test automation using WebDriver. You should also know working with locators, designing the framework. You should know TestNG. You should also know JUnit. Then you should know Cucumber for BTD and TDD. And again, for BTD, we have this framework. And then you should know all this DevOps tool like Git, Maven, and Jenkins, and this all are nothing but the tools which are required for us to become a test automation engineer in the DevOps world. And if you talk about the career path, typically in any company, there will be QA analyst role, which we also call it as SDET. That is nothing but software development engineer in test. We will have a senior QA analyst or a SDET. Then we'll have a QA team lead, and followed by test manager, and then senior test manager. And probably after that, you can also become product owner, scrum master, and so on and so forth, like as an alternate path. So if you can see here, you can also go for performance testing, API testing. You can go for BA role. You can also apply for DevOps engineer role. You can also become product owner, scrum master, so on and so forth.